The upcoming lunar eclipse isn't just your average lunar eclipse. There's a lot going on in the sky. We have a lot happening in Aries and Pisces, as well as here in Virgo, where the eclipse is occurring. We, for example, have a Sun-Saturn conjunction occurring at the time of this eclipse, which adds sort of a weightiness, a seriousness to the picture. Also, Venus is currently retrograde in Aries, and Mercury is about to station retrograde on the 15th of March. So, this lunar eclipse is a little extra dynamic, and thinking about some sort of tips for navigating it effectively came to mind for a video idea for this morning. So I hope that you enjoy. I've sort of been covering this eclipse for all week, as many astrologers have, and just the current astrology in general. There really is so much happening. These are the three areas of the chart to be paying attention to: the Virgo sector of the chart and the Aries and Pisces. We have so much happening there right now. So let's go ahead and talk about these 6 tips. Be sure to check out my channel for more information and specifics about this eclipse and navigating eclipses in general, and even more about some of the specifics of this astrology. I have a separate video about the Sun conjunct Saturn, for example. But let's go ahead and talk about these 6 ideas. Okay, so my first tip is to prioritize rest and boundaries during this time. Eclipses can always be busy, active periods. And like I said, this one is a little bit extra. And I think with so much happening in Pisces as well, our boundary work could be a little shaky. But that's a big part of what we're working on with this South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces signature. And it's sort of always a part of the Aries Libra dynamic as well. Finding ways to take care of ourselves so that we are our best selves for others. Finding ways to have boundaries up for what isn't working while still allowing in what does. And I think that these two really go together. It's a lot easier to find those healthy boundaries and to hold them appropriately when we have that proper rest. And holding those boundaries allows us to get the rest that we need. So this idea, in a way, is sort of 2 ideas, but I think that if you sort of prioritize that self-care during this time, again, a higher signature of the Virgo energy that we're supposed to be leaning in the direction of during this time with a South Node eclipse. That self-care, leaning in that direction during this time can be really supportive. Let's look at the next tip. So if you've been watching my channel at all lately, you are likely quite sick of hearing me talk about letting go of perfectionism. And I have to say, it may be a little bit of an ongoing theme. We're certainly not done with it yet. To me, that's sort of, in a way, the bottom line of this aspect of the signature of this eclipse. This eclipse is especially dynamic. We aren't just talking about the South Node conjunct the moon, which is what is causing that eclipse. But this aspect of the signature, wherever we have the South Node, we are working on releasing the more challenging or shadow sides of that sign, of that zodiac signature. And so when we do that, we're able to let in the higher side of where the South Node is moving and where the North Node is in Pisces. So with the South Node in Virgo, the more challenging sides of Virgo are perfectionism, over planning, overdoing, being too critical. It can seem as though Virgo's critical of others, but really it's so hard on themselves. Letting go of that within ourselves, right? Of being too hard on ourselves. So letting go of perfectionism, over planning, overdoing, being too hard on yourself, being too hard on others. That is a wonderful practice at the time of this eclipse that's coming up in about 24 hours from now. Uh, I'm recording this on Thursday morning, March 13th, and this is a chart from right now. When this moon in about a day comes to conjunct this south node, that's when we'll have the eclipse. Oh, I forgot to turn off I do have airplane on. It's funny that still your things come through, your notifications. I will have to clip this out in the final video. My apologies. Okay, I will clip that out in the final cut. If you're watching this live, you saw a little section that not everyone else will. It's so funny. I have, airplane mode turned on my iPad so that I can film this, but apparently your calendar notifications still come through. Anyway, let's get back to this. So, letting go of perfectionism. Letting go of that being too hard on yourself and being too hard on others. That's a great practice right now, and really for the next 18 months or so as we work with this South Node in Virgo. Let's get to our next tip. Yeah, reflecting on daily routines. Virgo rules daily routines, self-care, health. Oh, I'm afraid perhaps I was distracted before and I didn't quite finish the last thing that I was speaking about. It really goes with this. When we let go of those perfectionistic tendencies, what comes in instead is a more mystical connection, Pisces, North Node, with others, with the divine, with our higher selves. What comes in is helping others from a place of genuinely wanting to serve, connecting with others and helping them in very practical ways. But we have to sort of let go of the perfectionism in order for that to come in, and the over planning and the overdoing. Also, good to think about during this time is that Virgo rules our daily routines in terms of just the way you move through the day at work and outside of work. Also, health routines can come up here, like just sort of the way you care for yourself day to day. The way you eat, the way you exercise, your sleep routine, anything like that. So this is a great time to release habits or patterns that aren't working, that aren't what is best for you. Virgo, lunar eclipse, south node, amazing time for doing that, to be sure. Anticipate slowdowns, having to redo things, having to have the same conversation more than once. And over here, we're talking about I'm really saying this because of the Venus retrograde. And then on the 15th, Mercury will go retrograde as well. So Mercury is slowing down in the sky even this morning here on Wednesday morning as the eclipse builds. Mercury is also building toward that retrograde. So it is always helpful to know that things might not go exactly as planned. It's always helpful to know that you might have to do something more than once. You might have to have the same conversation again because someone didn't quite understand it, or for whatever reason, you have to have the same conversation with multiple people. Or you do a project and then you kind of have to redo it because there's something about it that needs to be redone. Dealing with old things that you already thought were finished, sort of having them come up again to be dealt with. These are all retrograde themes, and with a double retrograde, with the Venus and Mercury together, and really together because they'll both be in the sign of Aries, it's even a little extra from that. So Venus and Mercury will both be retrograde in Aries. Aries loves to go forward. Aries does not like to go backwards. But with this retrograde energy, there's a lot of slowing down, a lot of going within, and that sort of will have a little bit of a challenging feeling. So, sort of anticipating that things will go a little bit more slowly than you might like, expecting to have to redo things or for things to take a bit more time can really help to reduce that feeling of frustration because you're expecting that that's what's coming, you know? So that's really why I wrote that. Two more tips here for us today. Yeah, so Venus rules love, relationships, finances, art, aesthetics, all of these themes. And so, with this Venus retrograde, especially with Mercury, especially with an eclipse at the exact same time, this is really a time where we might see some realizations about love, money, and relationships coming to the surface, or any Venus theme. So, sudden sparks of ideas, something could happen that causes you to have this realization, thinking about perhaps the way you've done things in the past in a new way, but it's the potential for sort of a turnover, a new energy, a new wave of insight that brings about sort of a new